Okay, we ready? I want to thank everybody for coming to our 5 o'clock hearing, and to all our people out in Zoom land, welcome. Every year about this time, we create a budget for the coming year, and we present it as for public comment, and I will talk right in a minute. As part of our city charter, our city, I can't even talk today. I think, would you take over for our city manager, along with council input, designs our proposed budget. And so this is what we're going to be talking about. And as all budgets, our expenditures are in line with our revenues, which is a no duh. Mr. Straitman has been extremely busy. He has created about 14 different budgets for us all to look at. And so we are going to be looking at a budget today that is based on a millage rate of 9.609, which would represent a true millage rollback. And this would mean a 0 increase in property taxes paid for next year. So thank you, Jason, for all that you did for all of that. In addition to this millage rollback, y'all, our budget will still, we want to make it so that our city services will stay the same, be excellent, that we will continue with our infrastructure improvements, that we will continue future projects as they come into our view, and we have a few going. We will continue to pay our employees a working salary, regardless of the fact that we know everything is going up in price, but we have worked out a budget where we think we can do all this and still remain a wonderful city. The purpose of this hearing is for the public to receive comments about our budget that we're proposing. Do the council members have anything they would like to say, comment, or questions at this time? Okay. With that, I'm going to ask Jason to offer the proposed budget and explain it to us, and then I will open up the floor for questions and comments, okay? You're going to do the general fund and enterprise, all, Jason, or you want to do it separately?
We'll just kind of let it.
Okay, I like flowing.
If I'm prepared to talk about all at one time, but I
Okay.
stop also if need to. All right, well, Madam Mayor, Council, everybody in attendance, everybody in Zoom land, good afternoon. For this year's budget, if you go to the next slide, please, Sheriff. Every year when we start the budget process, one of the first things that we look at is our net digest. And then what that does, then we use a form that's called a PT 32 form. This is a state provided document that has a formula. And so for our millage rate for this year, 11.574, as you can see, our digest has increased from 87 million to almost to 109, with the Dutchess 106 million. So what that does is with the net digest going up, you have to adjust the millage rate accordingly. And the formula comes up to 9.609. That is the number we're working with. As you see, that would be a 0% tax increase. Next slide. And then there's our five-year levy that we published. As you can see, since 2019, the net digest has gone from a little below 59 million to almost 107 million. And since 2022, we've been able to lower the millage rate every year forward. As you see, it was at 15.6, 19, 20, 21, and 22 was 12.9, 23, 11.57, and then for the 24 taxes, which we base our 25 budget on, it would go to 9.609. Next slide. So the budget is comprised of the revenues and expenditures. And the budget that we have drafted is $1,533,910 for general fund. In relation to the budget for this year was $1,499,999, so it is a slight increase. Of those revenue sources, property taxes make up a little bit over $1 million. Then we have other funding sources such as franchise taxes, permits, uses, license, excise, almost 150,000, grants, right, 90,000. This is not the same, this is different from the one that, but anyway, but the total is the same, but the way, we have, 8, short-term license, and then the, other real estate, interest penalty, $73,000. Next slide. And then, the way that the source is, 67% or 67 cents out of every dollar is property tax, 5% interest penalties, hotel, motel grants, 11, franchise fees, 5, and then our license permits and others is 12%. So that's how our revenue is the way we receive the revenue for the city. Okay, next slide. I think you used the other PowerPoint that you fixed, but it's, the numbers are still the same, but, from the expenditure side, the $1,533,000, admin $385, that's city hall as well as employees, buildings and grounds,
Is that all employees?
that's for city hall, that's the.
Oh, city hall
Yeah.
employees, okay,
Yeah.
right.
Buildings and grounds, 86,000, police, 521,000, fire, 160,000, roads, 247, and miscellaneous. That's everything from elections to, code enforcement, building inspections. That's our money we set aside for our fireworks, fall fest, Haybell trails, economic development, et cetera, makes up the balance. Police, you, about a third, this year's 34%, roads, and admin 25, and miscellaneous 9%. So that's how the expenditures, the funding is spent. All right, next slide. So as the mayor said, we are proposing to do a true rollback this year. It would generate a 0 tax increase over what you've paid for this year. And we've been able to do that through several ways. Number one, the 8% increase from 5% on the hotel motel, that has generated more income for the city. Money that goes into the general fund. But the biggest thing has been the T-SPLOST, which is the transportation tax. A lot of those expenditures that typically would be funded out of the general fund for roads and the road maintenance, you're able to defer those costs through T-SPLOST. And you can't pay salaries and things like that with T-SPLOST, but you can pay for all that road maintenance and all the equipment we've been buying. So that's one of the things that's been a major factor, and that's being able to do rollbacks year over year. And even in spite of that, we've seen a 15% increase in our workers' comp, property and casualty, as well as a 22% increase in payments to the Scotty Mountain Volunteer Fire Rescue. The next slide, you'll see. This is the letter we received where the increase we can expect. And then year over year, next slide, the city has contributed 1.5 of the net digest to the fire department. This year with the, a meal being, 86,000 and some change, that generated $131,000. For next year, a meal will be 106,757.81, and that would generate approximately 160,000 on additional $29,000 for the fire department. So even in spite of these increases, we've been able to come up with a balanced budget that does not increase property taxes.
You want to stop there and
Yes,
see
ma'am.
if there's any comments?
Can you go back to that thing on,
Tim, you have to give your name and address.
my name is Tim Darrow, and I live at 642 Ridgeville.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay. You ran through the increase in the fire departments. Can you walk through that a little slower?
They get, what they have received historically year over year is they get 1.5 meals of the net digest.
Who set that?
That's just been kind of an agreement that's been
Forever.
year over year. I mean, it's renewed every year.
And does Macon County do the same thing?
I have no idea. That's a good question. But, that has historically been since I've been here, almost 4 years, and I think this is my fourth budget. The 1.5 has been the request, and that's what's been budgeted year over year. As the net digest does go up, obviously, their allocations go up. And so, in fact, I want to say I think the year before that, it was around $20,000 increase. So yeah, that will continue to go up under that agreement. If the 1.5 is proposed for next year's budget beyond this, and the digest continues to go up.
Any other questions or comments about what has been shown to you all so far? And if so, when you're recognized, our charter asks that you stand up with your name and your address. Yes, sir.
Chris Pence, 667 driver lane. What was the salary increases for your employees?
For all the totals, it was around the 5%. We've got right at 20 employees, it was around $30,000.
From the 5%?
5% across the board cut is what we propose for everybody.
Any other?
And that's obviously to remain competitive. I think we do a great job of remaining competitive. As you all know, turnover is very expensive. Some of our guys work 24 hours straight without water the other night. So, we do try to take care of them.
I didn't mention that, we certainly don't want to sacrifice any of our wonderful city services. And that is a challenge, but this budget allows us to do this. It also, in this budget, we do not touch our reserve fund, which is a good thing. Every year, our auditor compliments the city as one of the few cities that has a decent reserve fund that we keep, which of course makes our credit rating very good. Our debt services are good. So I did not mention that. So this budget does not touch our reserve fund, which is good. Okay. Anything? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Greg Stahl, 81 Bayberry Lane. A couple of items on the revenue. The revised budget you sent out, only total revenues of $1.3 million. And I think there were a number of items left off. And so I'm wondering if we can get a revised revenue budget that'll show it getting to the $1.5 million, because when I added up what you sent out this morning, I think your revenues got cut off. Because things like exhibit fees, interest revenues, court fines, interfund transfers aren't on this revised budget.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's-
it may have got, that should be 2 pages, is that right?
It's one page.
Okay,
So
that's not
the
the
second page. I missed it.
Yeah, so you're missing a page on the budget you
Yeah.
sent out. The other question I had was, I noticed that from the original budget that was sent out, we had $50,000 more in state grants. So did we get a new state grant?
No, that is you do a budget every year, you trend things out. For this year's budget, we received an extra $46,000 in supplemental LMIG money. I'm more confident than not that we're gonna see somewhere near that again. So there are some presumptions there that we're gonna receive that. So that's where that money that's where that 50,000 comes from. It's not been set in stone, but it's been set in wet cement. I just leave it at that. That's where that 50,000 comes into play.
That comes from the Georgia Department of
It does,
Transportation. And pretty much if you apply and it's legible and you get it in on time, you get the grant. So that's probably why he's saying that.
I have a very strong confidence that's gonna happen again. If it doesn't, we will just, a budget is, you build in these type of things,
Yes, ma'am.
Carla Stahl, 81 Bayberry Lane. So my question is just for my own personal knowledge. How many of the 20 employees that we have receive benefits, and what are the benefits we pay to them?
Well, every one of them, every full-time employee, and everybody we had was full-time. It would be an across the board 5%. Again, if you have an employee making 30,000 is different from somebody making
You
40.
talk about,
No, I'm speaking of
medical
benefits.
But the benefits, we do, the city has a reimbursement program. Each employee is eligible for up to $700 a month in reimbursed health insurance.
Okay.
We do not have a group plan, but if,
Gotcha.
it's up to 700. Yes, but those are the two main things. We do offer some supplemental vision and dental. But those are the main things that we have. Of course, all the holidays and things, vacation and things like that. But yeah, that's the core of
Do
it.
we have 401k or any of that?
There is a program through GMA. It's like, I think it's a 504B. It's similar to 401k. The city contributes to that, and then you can also add on to that as well. But it's kind of a public sector version of the 401k.
Got it, thank you.
anybody else? Anybody online? Ms. Van Camp? Have a question? Okay. All right. Well, then, let's move on to our enterprise fund.
Okay. The next budget we talk about is our water fund. Of course, for water fees, you pretty much trend this out year over year. We're anticipating a little over $450,000 in water fees. Capital fees, 15,000, that would equate to 5 new houses for next year. If you see the rate of construction we're seeing, I think that's a reasonable, realistic fee we receive with each tap fee being $3,000. Late fees is around 5,000, and then the interest and other fees, we've been receiving around 40,000 a year in interest on our money, which is good. As the mayor said, both of our combined utility and our general fund, we have lots of reserves, and as that money sits in the bank accrued interest, it's been very beneficial. The other fees that make up that 60,000 is the surge line. Most of you probably participate in that. The way that's structured is that when you pay that $2.50 every month, it goes to the city. So there's a fee, there's a line item, revenue fund for that, account for that. And then we in turn pay the serve line out of that every month as well. So, that's $535,400 is what we're anticipating for the revenue side, for the water fund. Expenditures, we do have a good bit of our employees, are in the water, so the 280,000 comprised of that. Operations, not quite 220,000. And then, the debt service, the city does have 2 GFA loans. One's at 3% interest, one's at 0% interest. And the debt service on that 3% loan was about 15,000 on the interest side. And then the 10,856 is a capital purchase, a lease purchase. The city bought an F-450, which is one of the dump trucks that's, we can carry rock as well as, other material dirt in. And that is a lease to own purchase that we do. And that's a 5-year lease. And we will own that asset at the end of that. But the first payment, it is paid once per year versus monthly. So that, it comes out to $524,251. The enterprise fund is one of the funds that the city could actually make money. And by law, you're not supposed to lose money, but based on what we're seeing, barring anything unforeseen, we would make about $11,000 by the end of next year.
Comments or questions from the council? Okay. From the meeting participants, any comments or questions on that? Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
just say my name
You
again?
just say your name.
Carla Stahl.
Okay.
So again, I don't understand how all of this works for our water. So does all of our water come through the water tanks, or where do we?
We have, our water is ground. Some cities and counties have surface water lakes.
Mhm.
We have groundwater. We have, actually have 2 different water systems. We have Winding Ridge, there's 2 wells, and then we have, in the main, the city core, I think we have wells, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, so that's 5. The wells pump water, our withdrawal permit allows us to withdraw up to 300,000 gallons a day. And as we pump that water, those waters stored in our various tanks. We have
I see.
one on Alex Mountain, one on Wildberg, we have one on Sky High, Schaumburg. And then we have, the one on Wine Ridge, so, that's where the water is stored.
So we pump our maximum every day and store it.
We,
or
well,
close
we pump as needed, water stagnates if it's not
to it.
used.
Correct.
So we spend a lot of time making sure that we have fresh water available. But we pump enough water that would last about 3 days if we did not have to use any water. But, this time of year, we're probably pumping about 150,000 gallons a day. 4th of July, Labor Day max, we're probably 280, 290. But on average, and we keep those records every day that we pump. But I'd say on average, we pump about 150 to 170,000 gallons of water a day. And well 8, just for what we're talking about it, well 8 can pump a little over 100,000 gallons a day, well 3 about 60,000. And then the other, wells 4, 6, and 7, between the 3 of those can pump about 50,000. So we have the total to pump a little over 200,000 a day, but we can withdraw up to 300, or up to 300,000 a day.
Yes, sir.
Joe Webb, 145 Big Bear Trail. Is your water utility, monitoring system on the internet? In other words, I'm thinking about cybersecurity. They try to come in and hack your utility system. Do you have a network like that where you?
We have a telemetry where that we utilize, but there's nothing that's tied in. I mean, our billing, the only thing that we would have is our billing that's cloud-based, and there's multi-step authentication to get into that, so we have measures in place for that, but there's really nothing digital about the water system itself. We do have meters and sensors on the tanks themselves that let us, that if we see a very fast loss or abrupt loss of those sensors will go off, and those text messages and emails will actually go to our public works director and our water coordinator, but that's about the extent of any kind of,
So it's really just a monitoring.
yeah,
Not a
monitors, yeah.
control.
You know, we don't have any ability to.
Low tech,
Hey.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's the best.
yeah.
low tech.
That's how a lot of times we find these after our leaks. Usually as those notifications go out because the tanks start dropping.
And our water specialist, tests our water every day
Good.
to make sure that it's okay, so, yeah.
It's amazing what goes in, and they take a lot of pride in the water, and we've got very good water too.
Yes, the rest of the county would like to buy our water system. We say no.
Chris Pence,
Yeah.
the employees in here, is that included, the 20 you told us about already, or is that another set of employees?
No, there's 20 employees total. I think on the water side, there's probably 7 or 8 of those employees on the water side.
Of the 27 right here?
Kevin's been on the road, so we got Cody, Neal, Kenny, Joe,
Jerry?
and Jerry. And then, a little bit of summer salary comes out of the water as well, because she does a water meeting. 5.5 employees, I believe.
But yes, part of the 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, and some of those employees have been here, most of our long-serving employees are in our water system, so they, with them being here quite some time. I mean, Neil's been here 25 years, and so, they've gotten raises over the years, so, it does make up a big part of our salary side.
Did that answer your question, Chris?
It did.
Okay. Any
Jason.
other? Go ahead. Did you want to say that?
Just, I know we've got a study in process and it's pretty far along to find a new well site, so we're gonna add one more well site
We've got the well.
to the,
done.
okay. And I don't see anything on here on the expenditure side, so would you, how are we gonna pay for that?
It's coming out of your side.
That right there will be something that we're probably gonna have to pay for out of reserves. I do not have any figures at the present, at time of budget, I do not have any figures. we've been told all along that well, and it may be about an 18-month process to do that, to build that well. Could be anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000, depending upon how deep they have to go. Obviously, we'll have to build a building. Just for the sake of everybody knowing, because of the growth, we identified a future well site, we're calling it Well 9. And that site would be near the post office on city-owned property. But I do not have any hard figures,
Okay,
but that would be something that as we get into next year, we'll have to kind of cross that bridge when we get to it.
Probably, we had a geophysicist,
Yeah.
identify where our well sites were. It
You
probably
know-
take over a year just to get the permit to do
okay.
it, so.
And hopefully, not to plug the SPOS that's on the referendum for tomorrow, but that would be about $600,000 over a 5-year period.
Yeah.
And we have looked at utilizing some of that funding, that SPOS funding to go to the water system.
Thank you.
Any, great questions, yes.
How much are our reserves and what are they for? Carlos.
In the general fund, we probably have about 10 months of reserves. That equates to probably a little over $1 million.
Okay.
On the water side, and these are guesstimates, but on the water side, we probably have about $700,000 in reserves. And then on trash, probably about $250,000.
So almost 2 million, but it's basically for emergencies right now.
Right,
Yeah.
and what would that constitute, I guess? I'm trying to think.
Well, give you an
The water
example.
tower falls down and we gotta build another one.
I
don't
see.
know.
Okay. All right, well, I'm just
I mean, we
thinking.
have insurance, we do have insurance, but if, a lot of times, if something happens, we may have to pay for it up front and get
I
reimbursed. So,
understand, okay.
water, in fact, we're looking at possibly adding a new water tank probably the next couple of years. And, we're looking at about $3 per gallon, so 100,000 gallon tank, probably about $300,000 to build a tank, so, obviously, again, in this budget, just like the general fund budget, we did not tap in any kind of reserve or fund balance. This is,
Okay.
we try to run the water system based on revenue.
Good question. Any more? Do I see happy faces?
Chris Pence.
Yes.
With that excess reserve, how do you invest that? Is that just in CDs rolling? Do we have a fund manager or?
Well, right now, it's, in our checking account, it does accrue interest. It's been accruing probably about $4,000 a month. The general fund about the same. Everything right now, we talked with the auditors about that. And with the size that we are, but based upon what our auditors telling us, we just can't keep it all in one. We have a checking account for our combined utility, we have a checking account for our general fund. Those funds are separated, but we operate out of that fund as well. So, those accounts do accrue interest, but,
With no long-term investment, it's all in our checking.
yeah,
accounts.
we've had some discussion about that. Like I said, we try to run everything through our auditor, but, that may be something we do in the future, but right now, that's the way we operate it. And we reconcile the bank accounts every month.
Anything else? Did you have some questions? No, okay.
Try on with the trash side. Trash side, trash is a little more straightforward. Really, the only revenue source that we receive is trash fees. And it's pretty consistent year over year. It's around $218,000. That's pretty much, as we trend out, that's pretty much what we're expecting to be at around by the end of this year. We have good reason, unless we get a lot of new customers. That should be about where we're at next year. Again, salaries, benefits, operations, we've got, I think 3.5 employees that come out of the salaries and benefits. That makes up the 154 in the operations. And then, $63,000. One thing I would like to say about the trash for this year is that the recycle truck that we use, it is on its last leg, we surplus that. The city has an F-350 that's, currently, is connected to our roads department. We're going to repurpose that truck and make that a recycle truck, so that's about a $35,000 to $40,000 savings to the city. But again, trash is pretty much break even at best, I think, pretty much year over year, if we make $1,000, we're doing good, but, one thing I do want to point out on the water side as well as the trash side, as tight as things are, we have not proposed any rate increases for next year, even in spite of everything going up.
Tim Darrow, Rich Bull. Do we get any revenue from sale of recycled cardboard or anything? Does the county give us anything?
It's just, they wait since they waive the tipping fees.
Okay.
We just send it on and, from my understanding though, the money in recycle is not what it once was. But that all just gets sent to them and that's part of that deal is they get anything out of it, they do.
They are still waiving the tipping.
Yes,
They are.
yes.
Good question, Tim.
Uh,
Any other questions or comments?
The next slide, we'll segue to marketing.
Okay.
Part of the marketing for next year, just like for the past, I believe, 3 years in a row, the city has contributed $5,000. That is part of the general fund budget. For this year, for example, the city gave $5,000, the POA gave $5,000, and the club gave $5,000. Gordon Brand, who's the chairman of the marketing committee, I spoke with him last week. He's in process of coming up, drafting a budget for next year for the council to approve that. I don't know if y'all will get that this month, next month, but obviously that will be duly advertised as well. One of the things they're waiting on is that, they've got a verbal commitment from the timeshare to contribute $5,000. So, if that were to be the case, that would give them about $20,000 to utilize towards their marketing efforts. But, those funds go towards, they have a professional consultant they use, ads in the Mountain Traveler and other type of entities that we do. And then, supplies and materials, in the past, the marketing has helped with things like Fall Fest, gift bags, golf tournaments, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't have a marketing budget for you now, but I can tell you that a fourth of that commitment is from the city, which is, if the timeshare gives it part. If there's not any questions on marketing, I'll continue on.
Well, I'm sorry, I have another one, Carla Stahl. So I've been on the marketing committee and I think it does a good job. I guess my question is, do we have any quantifiable results of funds that have come in or people that have built or some kind of financial benefit that the city's receiving from our marketing efforts? I mean, personally, now that I know about Sky Valley, it's okay with me if no one else finds out.
As far as any kind of metrics, the city's not been keeping anything. I don't know. I know the committee has recently drafted a survey where they're asking certain questions. How did you find out about Sky Valley? What brings you here? What are your interests? I think it's pretty safe to say that with the amount of new construction and new people moving here, it is working, but to my knowledge, we have not been keeping any metrics.
The contracted consultant does a report every month to the marketing committee, and he pushes out a jillion emails and videos and stuff, so he does have that data for that. But as far as the metrics on how that's working, I agree with Jason. I think all of a sudden we're seeing building and people are talking about it. In fact, they just produced a wonderful video for WSB TV, the marketing committee. It's got many of our stars here from Sky Valley, and it's really good. So we may be seeing more people come. I'm sorry, Carla.
Okay.
I know right now that we're anticipating 2 new building permits probably before December 31st for new construction.
Did you, when I moved here about 20 years ago, there was no houses being built, and we had something like 120 vacant houses and houses that needed to be fixed up. And so I think it's come a long way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The next, the final budget,
Excuse me, go ahead. What'd you
I think
say?
another indicator is what's happening with the tax digest, because for years and years, from 2008, things went downward. And,
talk about
other parts of the
assessments?
country
Yeah.
recovered,
Yeah.
but Sky Valley didn't. Well, along comes COVID. Everybody comes out of the city. We've got the Airbnb boom going on, and that raised our property values up. Well, COVID's over. We're not seeing a lot of houses that were busy during COVID, with people moving up here, and yet our property values are continuing to go up. And that could be a lot of things. It could be the housing shortage. It could be that, people are recognizing the value that the city provides. And one of the value added things, I think, is the marketing. And again, you don't see a payoff for a marketing campaign, sometimes for years and years and
Right.
years.
Yeah.
Just curious.
just on a side note, one of the things that we have noticed as an unintended consequence, the short-term rentals. Since we've enacted the ordinance, a lot of the short-term rentals, as people come and they visit the city, they see the city. This is a great place, I wanna live here. They're buying houses we're seeing our numbers of short-term rentals going down because a lot of those houses that were short-term rental, they're being sold, people wanna be here full-time now, so, I know Sharon, I think you've had 2 or 3 I know they have a rental property with their short-term license, and she said 2 or 3 people that have actually bought into the city based on visiting, so, we could.
Me too.
The final budget I'll talk about is the T-Splosh. Again, all this kind of ties back together. One of the reasons that we've been able to do these rollbacks and do all of these things is that, again, a lot of the expenditures that would typically be in the road department under the general fund for road maintenance, we're able to defer that to the T-Splosh. If you notice, we've been able to pave some roads, replace some culverts, we've, new stop signs, all of those type of things that we've been doing. Those have been funded through the T-Splosh. We're anticipating, we're still receiving that funding. I'm thinking that funding will be fully received by about next summer. Based on what we have in the bank now, based on what we're anticipating to receive, we're budgeting approximately $750,000 on the revenue side. And really, this budget is one where we could technically go as high as what we have or what we want to get. We try to be wise with these dollars and try to set a reasonable budget on what we can reasonably do in a year's time. So that's why we come up with that. We're anticipating about $565,000 doing road resurfacing. To give you an example, the roads that we're looking at doing: East Sugar Bush, Driver, Saddleback, resurfacing Lost Valley, and then we're also looking to widen Evergreen Road. If anybody knows our new road, it's amazing the amount of travel that road gets. When we did that road, and that road was actually done before T-Splosh. In fact, that road was done through several grant sources. I'm proud to say that road was about $275,000. We paid about $240,000 of that with grants. But anyway, when we did that road, it was paved at 15 feet wide. That was the most we could afford at the time. But we have found that does not work with all the traffic. So we're looking to try to widen that road to 18 feet next year. So
Y'all know they're starting the 441.
and that's
So
another
that's gonna
thing.
be a mess.
We know that's gonna add more strain on that road.
Right.
And really, it's amazing the amount of traffic. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, Evergreen is the back road in.
How many of y'all have been on Evergreen?
Yeah.
There you go.
So it's, anyway, that road, as we kind of look at things, we know that road needs to be, needs some attention. $75,000 general supplies and materials, $115,000 capital outlay, as you see F-450. As I mentioned earlier, we had an F-350 that we are repurposing for recycling. So this would not be, it would be a new F-450, but it's not a new asset, it's a replacement of an existing asset. And so, those vehicles, they went from about $75,000 to $80,000. And then we're looking also buying another Kubota excavator. With the recent water line breaks that we had last weekend, we actually had two major breaks at one time. And one of the things that kind of slowed us down is even though we had all hands on deck and had all of our crews out there, with one excavator, we could only do one dig at a time. So we realized that that's something that, that would be beneficial. Another thing too, I'd like to add is that even though we've been able to buy a lot of stuff out of T-Splosh, we can also use that equipment with our water fund.
Yeah.
Which has been amazing. For example, we bought a hydrovac last year. That's used to help flush out culverts and do road stuff. But it also is a great asset that we have when we have water line breaks, because when you're trying to create a clean hole, when you're trying to dig around power, I'd much rather use high pressure moving that dirt than the shovel.
We really don't have a good map of where all our power lines are, so that becomes real dangerous in the middle of the night when our guys are digging to repair water lines. We came real close last year to someone hitting the power line.
We nicked the power, we nicked the power Friday.
Yeah, oh, you did?
Well, 811 comes out and they mark the red with the power, and we dig, and power line's supposed to be here. Uh-oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
And it got nicked, but fortunately nobody got hurt. But yeah, if anybody doesn't know what a hydrovac is, not to get on topic, but it's a high pressure water jetting. And it literally just, it's amazing. It loosens the dirt and cuts a hole, but it doesn't cut through wire and things like that. But that's been
And then it backs it all out, doesn't it?
yeah, basically it makes it like a slurry, like almost like a milkshake consistency there. Then we vacuum it out and have to clean it. Yeah,
It's
but,
a big help to our guys.
and it saves times too, especially when we're working in tight places.
Would you say a little bit about the pressure reducing valves too, Jason?
On the water side, we are in process, and there's 17 pressure reducing valves in the city, throughout the city. Being a mountain city, we're very unique. We're not Atlanta, we're not other places, you know, that may not be the best example, because anyway, when you've got water towers at 3,800, 4,000 feet, and most of the valley around 3,000 feet, gravity's gonna do what it's gonna do, and of course, it generates high pressure. One of the things that we've looked at doing, what our water engineer has identified, is that these pressure reducing valves that are in these pressure reducing pits, again, there's 17 of these pits throughout the city. And we have found that they've been in the ground for 50 years and they haven't been touched in 49 and a half years. Most of them never even been touched. So we are in the process of rebuilding these. We've rebuilt 2 of them. We ordered 17 kits. Those kits were $3,000 each. And MPE, which is our water engineering company, as a cost saving measure, again, we've got a great crew. They came in and they trained our guys on how to do that rebuild. So we're gonna be able to do that versus paying them their consulting hour time to do that. And it takes about 1 day to do each one. And we're planning on starting back up on that this week, so.
Would you tell them what the water engineer told us, why we need to do that?
Well, one of the things that they do is that they help regulate our pressure, which in turn goes to the consumer. We encourage our residents to put pressure reducing valves on their system themselves. We can't mandate it because our responsibility is at the meter. That's their water lines, but.
He pretty much, we have a water engineer that we consult with, and his idea was, we talked about our continued leaks that we're getting in our old water system. And he thought it would be a good idea to start with the pressure reducing valves, which are supposed to help us not have leaks and get those all repaired and in working order first, before we, go any farther, and maybe this will help us with some of our leaks. Also, our guys, when we have a leak, they are not repairing just the little section where the leak is, they're putting in, they might put in 100 feet of pipe. So maybe by the time we all go to the home, it'll all be done, but if you need.
Well, I was just gonna say that, yes, the pressure is one of the components, but we're also finding that when we have these leaks and we dig out the hole to expose the pipe, whoever put those lines in 40, 50 years ago, huge rocks, you've got 6 inch, and we're talking old thin wall antiquated pipe, 6 inch main. We're finding that this pipe has been basically laid on top of rock. And you figure as the ground moves, 50 years of that right there, just it rubs soft spots. And we're finding that usually when that happens, when it bursts, the pipe just literally just fragments, it explodes. And so what we're doing is we're noticing these breaks, and we cut out, say, 20 feet. We might add another 30 feet or 40 feet back to the next bell, or the next section, to try to be proactive. So we're going for that little thin wall, or that thick wall blue that hopefully we'll all be retired on by the time it wears out.
Yes, sir.
D Van Camp, 99 Alex Mountain. I was just curious, with the water leaks that we've had, are those being mapped? Is that indicating to the city, is there a stretch of pipe that needs to be designated to be repaired or be replaced?
We do have a way to go in and do that. I don't know with this most recent leak, if they've had time to do that, but we do, when we have the water system mapped, and it was not a 100% conclusive find. We found that we're about 95% accurate, but yeah, we do go in, we notate that. In fact, one of the breaks we had the other night was a break that we fixed about 3 months ago. It was just one of those fluke things. If we'd go another 10 feet, we probably, but anyway. We are trying to fix it as we can. Again, it would be nice to be able to have a couple of extra $1 million to redo the whole water system, but,
I don't know that would even do it.
Like $2.5 million just to buy enough pipe for the water main.
yeah,
It doesn't include the fact that it's underneath roadways, doesn't include any labor, doesn't include fittings, doesn't include the smaller pipe feeding off of the main.
a 20 foot section of pipe is I think we're at $600 now. It's getting close to $30 a foot. When I first started here 4 years ago, it was around 14.
So the $17 I used earlier was low.
Yeah, yeah, we buy in bulk sometimes, sometimes we get a little bit different, but we're probably paying in the low mid-20s. If you just had to go buy a stick as an individual, you're looking at $30 a foot. We do get a little bit of buyer's rate because when we buy hundreds of feet at a time.
But just so you know,
Did
we've
that
got,
answer your
we've got
question,
30
Lee?
miles. of
Sort of.
water main.
Yeah, so I was just curious, with the leaks in D Van Camp, does it indicate that there is a certain section of the city's water system that needs to have a plan to go ahead and replace it in the future?
Section worse than the others.
Yes,
Yeah.
but if you're.
In some ways,
certain
yes,
out-
and in some ways, there's no rhyme or reason to it. We just, again, I remember 2 years ago, it was Pleasant Mountain and the Saddleback area that was getting all leaks. This, as of late, it's been the Ridgepole. And unfortunately, leaks breed leaks. I know that may sound kind of silly, but, when you take the pressure off the line, and then you put it back on.
You know what, Jason, we might need a leak mapping coordinator. How about it, Keith?
Willing to help where I can, please.
Okay.
It's on the payroll, but, yeah, we are very aware of the leaks. We are trying to be proactive. We have swapped out hundreds, if not thousands of feet of pipe, as Dan said, for 30 miles.
That
5,000.
might not be a bad idea.
5,000 feet, 5,280 feet per mile. It's really, there's a lot to swap out.
Thank God we have wonderful men who do all this for y'all, and us. And it always happens in the middle of the night or on the weekends.
I was up here till about 8 o'clock the other night, and I'll just say this, I don't want to take up too much more people's time, but when we discovered that second leak, the guys knew exactly where to go, and you have to cut valves off, and you have to do it in a certain order.
Yeah.
And like, we were going over here, then we're going over the post office, we're going over by Vista View, we're going here.
Right.
Yeah, we've got a great bunch of
Well,
guys.
when we first took over in 2020, they didn't even have a map of where our water lines were. Now, well, duh. Mr. Bishop, did you have something you want to say?
Steve Bischoff
Yeah.
from Bayberry. Where are we at with the old chapel?
As far as?
Merrill, is he gonna do anything?
You mean CDC?
You mean the lodge?
The lot, yeah.
Yeah. That is Harrison Merrill property. They are doing a master plan for us on what they would like to see in that area, and as soon as they present it, it'll be presented to our citizens. Does that answer your question?
Well, he owns more property here than anybody, so.
Correct. He owns
Is that
about
the
six.
property he's talking about, or are we talking about the actual?
He's got
lot?
roughly 600 acres and
Yeah.
his master plan would incorporate all of that.
What, all the
In some
area,
form,
Including the lot,
yes.
the lodge, he owns the lodge, yes.
right.
And I don't think at this point he's really sure what he wants to do with it.
We know that the church had to move out because the last hurricane did the roof even worse. It's pretty bad in there, y'all. It's pretty bad.
It's a danger right now, the way it sits.
Yeah, it's got a lot of mold and bat stuff in it.
And water damage.
Yeah, and a lot of water damage.
Somebody on Zoom?
Yes, yes, Sharon.
Kristen, did you want to ask your question?
Please, can you hear me, Sharon? Sharon, can you hear me?
Yes. Kristen, to
Okay.
give you-
I'm just curious as to whether or not the city council as well as citizens would benefit from comparative budget information with percentage increases on a common sized approach.
Kristen, would you give your name and address? And I'm not sure what you're asking us.
I'm sorry, Kristen Watley, 372 Saddleback Circle.
Yes, ma'am. Now, I'm not sure what you're asking. Ask it again.
I'm asking if we would all benefit from a comparative budget presentation with percentage increases and decreases on all the major budgets over a 3-year period.
We could provide that information, didn't make for a very long meeting. I mean, we do trend out expenditures and revenues year over year to create the budget, but essentially we draft the budget based on what the minimum needs are. That's.
Kristen, what do you think is the advantage to doing that?
Well, I think there's a twofold thing. One, I like to be able to look at an expenditure or a revenue source where I can compare how we're doing year to year. And this presentation gives us a lot of information, but I don't have that comparison.
You need a more detailed budget, a copy of the budget. Would that help?
On the proposed budget that we have, and it should be online, it provides the adopted budget for this year. It provides the budget versus actual. It shows where we are at on
Okay.
revenues and expenditures as of today or now. And then we show the budget proposed for next year. So you do get those comparatives. I mean, we could, we have those numbers. We can provide that. It's just.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. Anybody else on Zoom, Ms. Sharon?
Nobody else has asked. a question.
Anybody else in? All right, so remember, whoever.
I know,
else-
I got it.
Remember that.
Carla's ahead. Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I have a couple of questions. Do we have any more assets to sell? That, did we sell some land plots or?
We did, so-
Do we have any other assets?
We have some assets, but those properties have been identified as
Possible future use.
possible future.
So we're gonna hold on to those.
Yeah,
Yes,
one of them, for example, one of them is due to its location and elevation, would ideally be suited for another water tank.
Okay.
We have another lot that, has potential access for trailhead access.
Possible park.
And then.
I just was curious, I need to know
Yeah.
about those, but then,
Now, if we have, vehicles that we're selling, we do that.
Yeah,
also.
we surplus that from time to time. In fact, we use Gov Deals for most of that because that satisfies the competitive bidding process, but, we just surplus, 2 zero-turn lawnmowers and the F-350 garbage truck recently.
do you expect to, beat last year's budget, 2024 budget, or will we come in behind budget? Is that hard to tell right now?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I try not to sandbag anything, but I try to be conservative as I can. I mean, we've been very fortunate, that when we did those sales of those lots, I think when we talked, we were thinking probably about 100,000. They came in at 180. We just had some people got in bidding wars and they had to have them, and you know how that goes.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, so, but I do suspect there will be some, aging equipment that we will probably surplus. And typically that money goes into our miscellaneous side and, I would hope that our revenues will continue to outpace our expenditures even, because we went over last year. I suspect that we will go over this year by the time the dust clears. However,
Have a surplus or have spend more than we're bringing in?
well, for example, the budget for this year is $1.5 million. I would imagine by the time the dust clears, we'll be about 1.6, we'll be about 100,000 over. However,
More revenue. than
we've taken
expenditures.
in about $1,750,000. So what I'm hoping is that last year, we ended the year about 65,000 to the good. I'm hoping we'll be about 140,000 to the good this year, at the end of this year.
If the T-Splosh doesn't pass, do you have contingencies to drop that T-Splosh budget, or what you gonna do? I mean, I saw the budget, and that's contingent on everything passing, right?
No, that's on the present T-spots.
Yeah.
That's already
That
paid.
that money comes in every month. We receive between $40,000 to $50,000 a month. That was a $2 million T-Splosh, and we've been receiving those funds now, since about a year and a half, and I'm estimating we have probably about another 8 to 10 months left to receive.
How about our leaf collection? I mean, is that gonna start, cause I think it last year.
The leaf blower, in fact, I had this conversation today. I believe it's down. I have not, and we got some prices for leaf blowers. Now, that would be an eligible T-Splosh expenditure, because that deals with roads, but we're looking at probably $100,000 for new leaf
They
vac.
were blowing Alpine Saturday.
You talking about blowing or vacuum?
Blowing.
Well, the leaf blowers. Yeah, the leaf vac, we got some estimates, last year, when it broke, and it was close to $100,000. I think it may be, I will find that out, but I do know that that is something that we're gonna have to probably look at. I'm hoping we're gonna be able to fix it again. But again, you run into these situations where when you fix stuff, you almost can buy it 3 times by the time you fix it 5 times. But, in the short term, I haven't had a chance with the hearings and things going on today. I haven't received their work schedule for the week, but, I will know tomorrow.
Speaking of T-Splosh, it's been wonderful for us. The last T-Splosh, they have an algorithm where they work out how many roads you have, how many miles you have of roads, and how many you've repaved, and blah, 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 and they come up with a magic number. Last time we got $1.9 million from the T-Splosh. When it comes to fruition again and it comes up to vote, I hope you all will vote for it, because we have more linear miles now, which means we could get close to $3 billion So that certainly would be wonderful. So pass that on to your neighbors to please vote for the SPOS and the T-SPOS. And that's my advertisement for today. Anything else? we
I
need to
was
talk
just gonna
about?
say, one of the things that we do with that, we definitely promote that as much as we can.
Yeah.
If you look at some of our most recent equipment purchases, we'd probably make a NASCAR team proud if we slap funded by T-Splosh all over
Yeah.
it. To answer your question, if T-Splosh were, if there was a new referendum and did not pass, it would be some tough decisions, I'm sure, but we are trying to use that money as wisely as we can. But, I'm hoping it's such a great thing. And we know that a lot of our visitors help fund that through sales tax. It's really a win-win, so,
It's wonderful. Yes, sir.
Joe Webb, could you explain how that revenue is, funded by
T-Splosh?
visitors?
well, visitors as well as residents, but a lot, it's 1 cent sales tax, so it's based on visitors come in, they're buying meals, they're buying gas, whatever they're
Anything in
buying.
downtown?
Anything that's in the county, once, the 8 cent that you pay, 1 cent of that is the T-Splosh. And, one of the unintended consequences that we have found, everything costs more. You pay more sales tax. So when that thing was adopted, we were anticipating about $25,000 to $30,000 a month coming in. Some months we're getting 45, 50. And again, it's allowed us to do a lot of wonderful things with the roads that normally would have to be funded out of the general fund.
So-
When they initially recommended that we all go for the T-Splosh and people voted for it, they had a University of Georgia professor study how this funding would happen, and he came up with the figure that something like 94% of the T-Splosh funds that we accrue come from people visiting and staying for a little while in Raven County, which is kind of
It
nice.
seems a little odd. If we're all paying 1 cent on
Yeah.
a sales tax.
Yeah, well, there's a
whether it be
lot
Walmart or Ingles or
everywhere,
Marathon.
everywhere.
I mean,
But it's also visitors that are paid that 1 cent.
Yeah.
So we're paying tax there along with our city taxes.
You're paying into the T-Splosh, yes,
In
yeah,
tax twice here.
yeah,
Sales tax.
yeah, it's a sales
One through
tax.
sales tax and one's through property tax.
That's the American way, isn't
Sure. Death and taxes.
it? That's right.
One of the problems is that local governments don't have very many ways to fund their operations. Typically, it's been property tax, and Georgia is one of the states that has tried to supplement the sources of revenue for the municipalities. The state, they're doing really well. The federal government has an income tax, but the transportation SPLOST, well, the 1% regular SPLOST, I think we get over 5 years, $600,000?
that would be if it passes.
If it
The current SPOS that we have right now, the city received that money front loaded. We received that in the beginning. That SPOS does not end until, I believe, next July.
Right.
So, we would not start seeing, if the SPOS passes tomorrow, that will not go into effect until the current SPOS expires next summer. So we would probably start seeing that money, last quarter of 25.
Yeah.
And it's the city's allocation, I believe, is $594,000
$600,000.
Okay.
anticipated. And that's structured differently than the T-Splosh. The T-Splosh deals with mileage and maintenance.
Right.
The,
And T-Splosh
SPLOST
gives us
was
like
based on
almost
popularity.
$2 million.
Right, 1.9 million.
Because we've got roads, we've been spending money on roads and all those factors. And, for Sky Valley, it's a big deal. We may or may not get back what we pay on the SPLOST sales taxes, but on the T-Splosh, we get it back in spades.
Good discussion, y'all. Any other questions or comments? Yes,
I have
sir.
one question going back to the original budget, Brig Stall.
Yes, sir. Go
You said
ahead,
over in the
Chris.
CPA corner.
I know, I see
Doug up
that.
there on the screen. But, one of the things I did do was look at the percentage changes in the original budget. And the biggest increases percentage wise, and you looked at dollar wise, were originally roads and police and of course fire, which we've explained based on the 1.5% meals. But the cuts in the thing that was sent out today was 38,000 to roads from the original budget and 21,000 to the police. So were we cutting salaries? Were we cutting, what did we cut from the original budget to get down?
On the road side, it was some deferral, some more deferral to T-Splosh, went back to T-Splosh rules. Was able to defer some more of those expenditures. Yes, we relied very heavily on the T-Splosh. On the police side, there were some expenditures, largely technology type expenditures that we cut. With the new chief coming in, whenever that happens, that may be something we have to explore, but that was the kind of the easiest way to do this. We cut a little bit of overtime of some departments, cut some, a little bit of training hours, training funding, but every effort was made not to cut salaries or cut benefits because,
We gotta keep up.
the county, and I'm not taking shots at other utilities, but, we've lost employees for a quarter of an hour raise to go to the county, so we do everything we can to try to be competitive.
And if it'll help you, Jason, I've got an Excel sheet with the percentage changes in the budget. I'm sure it's it's in the-
Thank you.
Thank you. Any
Briggs,
other-
I've had some of the same questions about how we're doing that. And with the equipment we've got and with the retention of employees who've seen this stuff and done this stuff, and now we're equipping them better than we have in the past. I'm thinking that the productivity is what keeps us going. Now, if you look at it, since COVID started in 2020 to today, inflation has gone up 20%. First, it was a supply chain stuff,
Right.
and then it was avoiding the recession as a result of everything being shut down. But I think it's just phenomenal that we're keeping that down, 3 years in a row now. It's not gonna last forever. We're gonna eventually, you saw some of the cost increases for the insurance and other things, so things are, eventually, we're gonna have to go up. There was a tax cap resolution on the ballot, which worries me. If you can't go up more than 3% a year, I think that's gonna have an unanticipated effect of making cities go up, because you can't do a rollback, a genuine rollback like we've done this year, and make it up later when you have to. But probably even more important than whether we roll back or we don't roll back is that I think this council is committed to doing what we need to do to keep Sky Valley a first-class working community in terms of services and infrastructure and roads and whatever we can do at a reasonable cost to make things even better than they are. One way or another, I think we've got a consensus here to rise to whatever problems arise.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, sir.
Joe Webb again. So your concept of the balanced budget, you're gonna spend what you bring in. What's the bottom line hit for this coming year? You talked 14% earlier in a memo that I saw last week.
Yeah, that was the original budget that was proposed, by reducing the millage rate to offset the net digest increase. Whatever you paid in taxes for this year, you should do for next year.
More quick question. The homestead exemption rate, who sets that for Sky Valley? How's that set?
There's actually, and I have to pull it up, but Sky Valley is kind of unique. Everybody gets a flat $25,000 off the top.
That's a
Everybody.
state.
Whether it's your, not your primary residence or anything, right?
No, it has to be your primary, you have to apply for it, it has to be your primary residence, and that's where that 2.8 is 100, I believe 114 full-time residents that utilize the homestead. And it's just a flat $25,000 off, and that's where that $2,800,000 comes off the top from.
Did that answer your question,
It
Joe?
does. That would be a solution to the full-time residents here. It's gonna come at us with 10 or 15% increase your homestead to offset that for the full-timers. And then it would be a wash for us. As a solution, I mean, you come at 10 or 15 or 20%, this room's gonna be full, and there's gonna be a line out the door of people wanting to, have a conversation about it. That being said, thank you for giving us heads up, because, the grocery store didn't call me when they're gonna go up 20%. The gas station didn't call me. My insurance companies don't call me. They just send in the bill. So, thanks for giving us a chance to talk.
Sure, sure. Anybody else need to say anything before we let y'all go home and eat dinner? Our next meeting, we have a third hearing. It's on November the 12th. That's a Tuesday. At 9 o'clock in the morning, if you want to come back and talk about this again, you are certainly welcome to come back. We'll be doing this presentation, and following that, we'll have a special call meeting of the council to vote on the approval of this budget. And I say, thank you for coming, and bye.